Hello, I'm Michael, founder of StutterMind. I am a lifelong severe stutterer who now speaks fluently. This is my testimonial. Stuttering runs in my family. My mother has a slight stutter. I have several nieces and nephews that stutter, and I began to stutter severely at about the age of 5 and have stuttered severely for the next 45 years. When I was 5, I was learning to ride a bike and I fell off and I knocked out my 2 front teeth. And I began to speak with a lisp. My teacher noticed the lisp and sent me to the speech therapist. Well intended, the speech therapist focused my attention on articulation and pronunciation and sounds and words and speech. I remember in speech therapy having a mirror and looking at my mouth and trying to speak correctly. All that attention on words and speech. I began to stutter, and then I stuttered severely for the next 45 years. Severely, for me, that meant I stuttered probably 90% of the time. There were some situations when I could speak. If I'm home alone in my room with the door closed, I could read a book out loud to myself. I knew I could speak, so I knew it wasn't physical, but I really had no idea why I was stuttering. When I wasn't stuttering, my mind was thinking about words. Probably 95% of my mind space was focused on words. The next time I had to speak, is someone going to call my name? Do I have a meeting tomorrow? Do I have to introduce myself? Always thinking about words. And I would know words in advance that I couldn't say, and I would focus on them. How can I talk around those words? Or how can I avoid speaking altogether? My mind was always thinking about words. It impacts the quality of life. You can't just relax. My brain's always thinking of words, and it's very, very stressful. This happened throughout my entire life. It's just who I was. I didn't let it stop me. I pushed through it, but it was not easy. I remember in high school when being socially accepted is so important, stuttering in class, stuttering answering questions. Sophomore year, I had Spanish class and I had to speak Spanish in front of the class, and I couldn't say a word. I just pushed and stumbled and red in the face, and it was just so humiliating and embarrassing, just very, very stressful. In college, I was the vice president of the Marketing Association. My role was to bring in guest speakers. I brought in the vice president of sales and marketing from IBM, and I had an auditorium of about 300 people, professors and students and peers all there to hear my guest speaker. At the podium, I had to introduce my speaker. I couldn't say his name. I pushed and got stuck, and just humiliating, stressful. This happens over and over in my career. Certainly I've been judged based on my speech, perhaps not to be as capable or as good of a leader or as smart because of my speech. None of those things were true, but that's often how I was judged. I believe I was overlooked for roles. Sometimes I would even not interview for roles because I didn't want to go through a job interview, or the role had too much speaking in it. So certainly stuttering has impacted my career. Socially, coaching my son's sports teams, meeting new people, all day, every day, stuttering impacts almost all parts of your life. I would mostly have a hard block when I would get stuck on words and try to push through those words. My tongue gets stuck at the top of my mouth and won't let any air out. Make faces and grimaces trying to push through words. Sometimes I couldn't engage my vocal cords. For example, on the word 7, I would get stuck on the couldn't get the vocal cords to engage for the rest of the word 7. Often would repeat words or sounds over and over and over again. There's many different ways I would stutter. I looked for help online. I've read books, spent hours and hours in speech therapy, well intended. For me, it was counterproductive, actually brought more attention on words and stuttering for me. I purchased a very expensive earpiece to help with my speech. None of it led to speech fluency. Most what I learned was acceptance. Accept who you are. If you go to a stuttering support site, it's really mostly about acceptance, to embrace who you are. It's fine that you stutter, accept it, and that was and still is, the predominant message for stutterers is acceptance. About 3 years ago, I read a book called The Brain That Changes Itself by Norman Deutsch, and it's about brain neuroplasticity, new science, very exciting. In the book, the author talks about the brain and how it can evolve and change, and it's flexible and it's plastic. It's not fixed. Some of the examples were about people who had a stroke and they had damage in their brain, and through training they could actually repurpose neurons and to help gain back some of the functionality that they lost through brain neuroplasticity. So I thought, can I apply brain neuroplasticity to my speech? So practiced it and trained it, and within 2 months I began to speak fluently, which is amazing. The quality of life has gone up significantly. Happiness, everything is so much easier. My mind space is freed up. I don't have headaches. Life is so much easier and happier for me, not having to work on speech, words, stuttering all the time as I did. I'm so excited to share what I've learned, the tools, the methods to avoid any stutter, and how to retrain your brain for fluent speech. It's real and it works. And I'm so excited to be able to share what I have learned with the over 70 million people around the world who stuttered. So watch the free videos, there's a lot of them, and then sign up and become a member. And we will teach you how to avoid any stutter and through training, to naturally rewire your brain and to learn to speak fluently like me. I am very excited that you found StutterMind and look forward to you joining StutterMind and becoming a fluent speaker.